going well. So I'm about to conduct an experiment. That's what we typically do as vegans. Oftentimes we are not following a recipe. My goal is to make a dish that is something I can stretch throughout the week, as well as something that is cheap in price. So my goal is to make a grain bowl. So I'm mixing both farro and quinoa together. And in addition to that, I'm going to create my own sauce. That's a mixture of some cashew as well as some smoked pepper and tomato. And I'm just going to have that blended up in a blender. Now I have a Vitamix that I might use to create the soupy-like texture for both the tomato and the roasted pepper. But it all depends on where we stand with the oven, if I'm going to use that or not. The Vitamix often makes the food warm, so you can actually make soup with it. Anyway, right here I have so far a few items. Excuse my plate, but squash, okay, zucchini. Went ahead and cut some peppers, both red and yellow peppers. So I'm going to use the squash as part of the filling with the grains. I love veggies, so I typically just topple in a whole bunch of veggies with any dishes that I have, regardless if it's a bowl or if it's not. That'll make it healthier and help me get my greens in. This here is the quinoa. I've got about a cup of quinoa, and underneath it is the farro. I actually didn't have enough to make a cup of farro. I actually ran out of farro, so with that said, it's going to be a mixture of quinoa and farro. Honestly, if I ran out of the quinoa, it was going to be rice. So you can pretty much use anything you want for your grain. Rice, quinoa, they all have their carbs, but we need carbs to survive. So don't, get too crazy over that. If you feel that a cup is too much for your bowl and it's just too grainy, add more of the veggies. And that can actually take up that space in your stomach as well as on your dish. All right, and then I went ahead and cut the zucchini, so kind of get an idea of what it looks like. I'm not sure if I'm going to mix the zucchini in at the end, like once I've created the soup or the sauce, I should say, or if I'm going to saute the zucchini. It all depends on how I feel at the end of this demo, so bear with me, we'll see what happens. One thing I wanted to show, red cherry tomatoes. These are the tomatoes that I'm going to use to blend and create my sauce. So everything is literally being made from scratch and from whole food-based products, which I highly recommend. None of that other fluff that is pre-processed or half-processed. Now, it's okay here and there, but you just want to try your best to stay away from those products because they're high in sodium, and sodium is related to heart disease and high blood pressure. So if you're looking to cut back on the process and just take out more time to do what you need to do. Okay, so here we've got just literally 2 cups of water with a few little pieces of grain in there. I accidentally dropped some quinoa and farro in there. 2 cups of water per 1 cup of grain. So I'm going to go ahead and pour. As you can see, the farro is now present. If you can't see it now, you'll see it later. So we are actually going to turn that on. I typically do high until we get to a boil. Once we get to a, oops, I turned on the wrong burner. Once we get to a boil, then I turn it all the way down to low in order to ensure that I don't burn the house down and that it has time to simmer and not stick to the pan or pot, I should say. If you're vegan and you're looking for an actual substitute, like meat substitute, something to make your food taste like some meat, whether it's beef or chicken, you want to check out the Better Than Bouillon brands. Better Than Bouillon, that might be a little backwards from your end, but that's the name of the product, and they make vegan-based bouillon, or vegan bouillon, where the spices, the flavoring, everything comes from a plant-based source. So I actually have the chicken flavored. It's called non-chicken based chicken flavored bouillon. So I'm going to actually add this for flavor to my farro and quinoa. That's as far as I'm going to go. Now I have put adobo or sazon goya into my quinoa just to give it some flavor and pizzazz, but to be honest with you, you're really not going to taste as much because the sauce that we make is really going to overshadow any type of spice that you have. So if you're going to be using spice and you really need your spice and you only want to put it in one place, I suggest putting it in the sauce rather than in the quinoa. But I'm going to do both because I want to have a little chicken flavor, and again, I'm experimenting, so I just want to see how it all is going to turn out. So this typically is the chicken better than non-chicken paste, better than bouillon. So this is what I typically use, kind of like a regular spoonful. I do measurements, especially when I'm following a recipe, but my mama taught me quite a bit when it comes to measuring and determining how much I'm gonna put in what, so I already have like that intuitive idea. Of course, I don't, because I don't have the measurement, I suggest you go small, you know, put a little bit in, taste your food as you cook. There's nothing wrong with that. You're cooking for a team of people that don't live with you, I don't suggest that. If you do taste it, take the food, put it in another container, use a spoon that you won't be putting back or double dipping with, and taste your food. Do it like that. So I suggest a little bit at a time. If you find that that's not enough bouillon, just keep on adding a tiny bit until it gets to your liking. Okay, so we are currently getting to a boil, and I do apologize having this pot pretty far back. So you can see the quinoa and farro is now boiling, and for that reason what I'm gonna do is turn this all the way down to low. And one thing I didn't mention is that I will be covering this pot and letting it boil for a little bit. Let me turn that down a little more. Sometimes if you have a stove like mine, you may have to move it to another burner because this burner is already hot. It's going to take a while to cool down, and we may have some rumbling going on longer than I want. So I went ahead and cut up the peppers, as you can see. I did add onion just for additional flavoring. Hopefully it will come out good. Again, this is an experiment, so we shall see. I went ahead and seasoned my ingredients according to basically the seasonings that I like. Now, I don't even know how this is going to turn out, so you can season it as you want or as you please. If you're waiting for me to tell you the results, wait until this is over, and then I will share with you if my seasonings taste good. But one is oregano, just because, you know, typically in sauce, anything that's similar to spaghetti sauce, which includes tomato, oregano mixes very well with that. So I added other things too, but I'm not going to tell you what those are. In addition to that, these are the tomatoes, the cherry tomatoes that we're using. I'm going to cut up a few of those cherry tomatoes, and I'm actually going to put them on the pan to roast. That was just a last minute decision I just made, just to give it like kind of a smoky flavor. But I'm going to take the other half and I'm just going to blend it. Like I said, the blender that I have can make soup. So I'm just going to add the rest of the tomato to it, blend everything up, and I'll choose whether or not I'm going to rely on a blender to heat the sauce up, or if I'm going to rely on a hot pan or a pot to heat up the sauce. What you hear in the background, that type of burning sound, that is the water or condensation dripping from this nice little pot in which the quinoa and farro is in. So don't be alarmed, it's just water dripping down from the top covering. Right now, that farro and quinoa is just simmering until it absorbs all the liquid and flavoring that I just added. Okay. So I went ahead and added some tomato to the peppers. I think that'd be enough to be roasted and give kind of like that smoky flavor. Now I will say, one thing I forgot to mention was, in addition to the seasonings, I went ahead and used grapeseed oil, brushed that over all of the veggies just to make sure they don't stick. Grapeseed oil is super good for you. It is on Dr. Sabi's list of approved foods. So if you are going to use any type of oil when you cook, you can use that, whether you're heating it up or not. It is so safe in comparison to other oils. So to the oven it goes. So here we are when it comes to our cashews. I've been having these soaked for a little while. Typically for cashews, if you're going to be cooking with them and you need to use them for either a cheese sauce or just any other sauce, you want to make sure you give your cashews adequate time to soak in water. Preferably warm water if you're just using it from the tap, or if you're using, you know, regular water, just make sure it's at least warm. And if you need to expedite the process, just throw those cashews on in the pot. Boil this for a little while, maybe like 5 minutes, and that will give your cashews a softer feel and texture, which will be more malleable when you put it in the blender. We will be blending these cashews with the sauce, the smoked peppers, smoked tomatoes, as well as the other tomatoes that I have on standby. So everything's gonna be blended together. My goal is to have a sauce that I would say, I guess it would be similar to like ragu in texture, maybe a little bit thicker. I feel like the cashew is going to make it taste that way. Now cashew also gives a cheesy taste to it based on how you prepare it. I'm not too sure if I'm going to prepare the cashew as cheese yet and then blend, or if I'm just going to add the cashew to the sauce and see how it comes out. We'll see. So I was actually going to take and just pour the cashew in with the water. I am soaking the cashew in spring water, but I'm afraid that once we blend up these tomatoes as well as the veggies that are in the oven on top of what we got here, it might be too watery. So my goal now is to literally just scoop out the cashew. And listen, I thought about doctoring everything up on my end before I made this video, but look, I'll tell you this, we all are, we cook in our home, you know, we all have certain ways that we keep house, and we shouldn't be ashamed of that. So my goal is to just keep it 100% real when it comes to how I do in the kitchen. So you may not see all the fancy utensils or tools, but the tools that I do use get the job done, and that's what matters most. Alright, let me go ahead. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to actually take this water and just set it aside, just in case I need to add some of it. I did add some spices, and again, these are the tomatoes that are not roasted. So everything is still roasting as far as the peppers, and then the other tomatoes I cut up, they're still roasting. And I do have the oven on at 400. That's just to expedite the process. If you have more time, go ahead and turn it down, but that works for me because my goal again is to cook it down, give it that smoky texture and taste, and then blend it with this. So let's see what happens with this first round of blending, and then we'll see what happens thereafter once these veggies are done roasting. So it's not pretty right now, and my goal is not to make everything pretty, because when it comes to cooking, there's a process, and a lot of times every step is not perfect, okay? Right now, this is what it looks like. So as you can see, this is a blend of the tomato with the cashew. No, it's not pretty, but again, we'll be adding the roasted pepper. We're going to be adding the roasted tomato. In addition to that, we're going to be cooking it too, just like we would do regular sauce, to like warm it up. So we got a little bit of time before it gets to how it's supposed to be. I'm currently trying to check on the roasted peppers and tomatoes. I'm actually going to turn them on to broil just to expedite this process, make it a lot faster so that a sister can eat, because I am hungry. Yes. Okay, so I decided that I'm going to cut up all of the squash and all of the zucchini. At first I was only going to do half of both, but I think I want to use the squash and zucchini more as a filler, or actually more of the main dish ingredients. I'm going to mix it with that sauce, and maybe have the quinoa either on the side or on underneath, like kind of like spaghetti. I'm still trying to figure it out. I did say initially I wanted to do the quinoa and farro mixed in with the sauce, but I don't know, I'm changing my mind as I go. But in the meantime, what I'm doing is cutting up more of the squash and zucchini, and I decided to saute this, because once I put it in the sauce and then in the pot so that it can cook, it's going to get even softer as I am cooking it. Sorry, just kind of stirring it up with a knife. Anyway, so yeah, basically all I'm using is 2 pieces, well no, it was 4 pieces. So you've got 2 pieces of zucchini, 2 pieces of squash, okay? So if you're wondering, you know, how much I use, it was that. And then for the quinoa and farro, remember, it was 1 cup for both of them mixed together. So if you're just doing one or the other, just do 1 cup of that. And that should be more than enough to at least feed 1 person for an entire week. This is going to be dinner for me. I typically meal prep my lunch too, which are going to be taco cups. And I'm going to show you how to do that, maybe. Depends on how this one turns out. But anyway, after I'm done with this, I'll do the taco cups. And then what I do is just freeze everything. But we'll get to that a little later. All right. So I'll continue to cut up, pun intended. And to be honest, guys, I'm not cutting my zucchini and squash in any fancy way. I'm just cutting into 4s, stacking it, slice one way, slice another, and call it a day. Everything, for the most part, is going to look alike. I do have a few pieces that I cut only in 2s, but it is what it is. It's going to get the job done. Majority is 4 or smaller, halves or quarters if you want to say. So I'm basically cutting them into that. If any halves pop up, they'll be eaten just the same way as the quarters. Okay, y'all, look how this farro and quinoa came out. Came out pretty good. Right now I'm just kind of breaking it up because I want to make sure nothing sticks. But basically what I do after quinoa and farro is done, I just let it sit, and it may solidify a little bit, but that's okay. My goal is to make it kind of crumbly, not crunchy, but crumbly as far as not sticking together, in case I do put the sauce, mix the sauce within this. I still haven't made my decision, so we'll see. The roasted veggies are done. Let's see what these babies look like. Exactly how I wanted them. A little scape on the top. Gives that nice smoked flavor. Again, I did turn my oven into broil mode, probably, I'd say about 10 to 15 minutes in. So, and then I only let it go for about another 10 or 15 minutes. So you don't have to do too much. Just make sure that the pan is not too close to your broiler. It eventually get to the place that this is at, and you'll be good. So my next step now is to scrape that off the pan and then throw it in the mix and blend. Okay, so I'm scraping it in, and because I use the grapeseed oil, I'm able to, it's literally sliding right off the pan. So be sure to use grapeseed oil. So I'm super excited because not only did I add seasoning to the veggies before I roasted them, but I also added seasoning to the sauce. So there's a lot of seasoning going on here, and my goal is for the seasoning to actually make this dish come out like something. This is definitely an experiment. All right, here goes nothing. So this is what I mean. If you can see the steam coming off of here, that's what I mean about this awesome blender. It's a Vitamix. I'm sure if you have one, you already knew that this was the case, that it can make stews or different soups or blend to warm. So that's what I did with this. I haven't tasted it yet. I just wanted to show you some of that steam that was popping off to let you know that it's warm. So my next step is to test taste. It smells really good, I'll say that. So hopefully it tastes just as good. I like it. What I'm getting right now is a tangy taste more than anything. Of course, this sauce has a tomato base, and with that, of course, it's going to overpower everything else. But I do taste the roasted peppers. I do feel like I need to add more savory flavoring, so I am going to get myself a little bit of ingredients that will add to that. And then I'll stir, you know, blend it again and see what happens. I think I'm going to also add a little bit more garlic. So if you were wondering what seasoning I use, I'm gonna at least give you that. Garlic is one of them, okay? Garlic powder. All right, so let's see what happens once I give it a more savory feel. All right, so what I'm doing now is grabbing some grapeseed oil. I'm gonna glaze the pan a little bit with that. And then after I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and add my zucchini and squash for sauteing. Of course, I am going to give some spices or add some spices to it. I'm not too sure yet which ones, but stay tuned. Okay, just throwing them in. Because of my pan and the fact that I don't feel like getting another pan to continue the process, because of its size, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit at a time so that it is fully sauteed. And then after that, I think I'm going to grab my pot and I'm going to mix the zucchini, squash, with the sauce, and I'm thinking I'm going to put that over the quinoa. We'll see. Again, I still have not yet made up my mind, but anyway, I went ahead and grabbed a little bit of the quinoa and the farro, and this is going to help me make up my mind. I'm going to mix this together with the sauce and kind of get a feel for how it looks and tastes. So of course it's not going to look as pretty being up in a bowl without all the other ingredients. I'm still not sure. It's got a little feel to it. I don't know. Maybe I will mix it. So again, the tomato still is overshadowing the other flavors. So chicken flavor is gone, which is okay because it tastes really good. I don't know. I might have to just make it all in one bowl. Mix the quinoa with the zucchini, with the sauce. I think I'm gonna do that all in one pot and then just break it up into portions so that I can spread it over the week. So now I'm just working here with the zucchini and the squash. I honestly didn't add too many seasonings because I don't want to take away from the natural flavor, and also I want to watch the sodium count. Usually with a lot of these ingredients, there's high sodium, so just be careful with that when you're cooking, because it can go from healthy to unhealthy in 2.5 seconds. Okay, so here we are. This is the last batch of the zucchini and the squash. I did not want to cook it down too far because zucchini and squash gets very soft very quickly. I also have the rest in this pot. I actually am deciding that I'm going to keep the ingredients somewhat separate. You'll see what I'm talking about in a moment. So at this point, we're done. We made everything that we need to make. It's really about mixing everything together. You can mix all three ingredients, the sauce, the quinoa and farro, as well as the veggie all together. But I'm just concerned about the appeal. For me, everything goes down my belly and it's digested. I don't care, but you know, for presentation purposes, I had an idea.
Interesting. That's typically what people will say when they don't want to hurt your feelings when they're not feeling a dish. Now, I will say this is not aesthetically pleasing. I'll be the first to say that and take ownership of it because it is mine. However, it does taste super good. What I did was just went and put a bed of quinoa and farro down. Then I put the roasted veggies on top of the sauce and just kind of tried to doctor it up to look cute, but she ain't that cute. So following this dish, I went ahead and just mixed everything together. Now, of course, it did give an orange appeal to it, but it looked a lot better than what we're seeing right here. Nevertheless, it's healthy. It was cheap. Like I said, you're not going to spend more than $15 on this dish, and this is going to last you for at least 5 days within the week. And it's very nutritious, so it is a winner in my book, even though she ain't that cute today. I hope you guys enjoyed my first demo. Give me your feedback and have some fun with me with that too. Try this meal, mix your food together. Don't add no food coloring, but you know, make it as appealing for you based on your needs and your desires. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself, and until next time, stay healthy from the inside out.